Welcome to the Avanti Woman podcast. With each episode, each conversation, we aim to empower, connect, and build women to move forward, feel confident, and thrive in healthcare, finance, entrepreneurship, and philanthropy. We're glad you're here.
Breast cancer. When you hear those words, you probably and naturally think of women. But what if I told you that men are affected too? Yes, men. In fact, 1 in 800 men is diagnosed with breast cancer, yet it's a topic that rarely gets the spotlight. Today, we're breaking the silence. Welcome to the Avanti Woman podcast. I'm your host, Nairi, joined with my colleague, a breast cancer survivor herself, Roxanne Trichet, also Avanti Woman's executive director. Welcome, Roxanne.
Thank you.
It's October and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We're tackling the side of breast cancer that no one talks about, how it impacts men. We're honored to have two extraordinary guests with us, Bret Miller, a male breast cancer survivor, and his mother, Peggy Miller. After Bret was diagnosed at just 24 years of age, mother and son turned their experience into advocacy by founding malebreastcancerhappens.org. Together, they've made it their mission to raise awareness, break the stigma, and support other men facing this disease. In today's episode, they'll share their powerful story, the unique struggles men face with breast cancer, and why early detection and awareness are so critical. Trust me, you won't want to miss this eye-opening conversation. Bret, Peggy, it's an honor to have you on the show, and all I can say is, wow, amazing. So, let me just start by asking you, Bret, at 24, how did you realize something was wrong? And what was your reaction when, out of all things, you were diagnosed with breast cancer, which is something we never think about that a man can have?
Very good question. I'll raise your question of 24, and I'll answer it with I was 17 when I first found my lump. I was a senior in high school, and I had just been watching TV, and I kind of reached down and scratched my chest and everything, and I felt this lump behind my nipple. And I had gone to two different doctors my senior year, one to get for football and the other one for shots for college. But I asked two different doctors what the lump was, and basically their answer almost the same, where it's calcium buildup, you're going through puberty, it's nothing to worry about. So this is about 2003, 2004. Fast forward 7 years later, I graduated college. I'd been at the job that I've been at for a few years, had health insurance. My parents knew about the lump, the entire time, but they were like, "When was the last time you went to the doctor and had a physical?" And I go, "Before college." So it had been quite some time. So it was based on my parents nudging me, nagging me to go to the doctor to get a physical, to get checked, is what led to it. So set up for a physical, got the physical. Doctor kind of checked everything out, says everything looks fine. We got the blood work's going off to the lab, but I don't see any issues and stuff. We'll get that to you within the week or so once they come back. I had to stop him from walking out the door to ask him to come back and check this lump that I've had under my right nipple for 7+ years. And the second that I said the lump under nipple, he kind of turned around really quickly and had that puzzling look, like, "What are you talking about?" Well, because also in a male physical, they don't do breast exams on men. Later to find out from that same doctor, when I asked him after I was officially diagnosed, "Why don't you perform breast exams on men?" He reverted back to statistics. Less than 1% of breast cancer cases. It's more hereditary. All these statistics, rather than just saying that, hey, it's not worth my time, kind of. I mean, that's what I felt the way that he answered it. But he sent me off to back to, when he looked at the, felt the lump and looked at it and everything. He sent me to go get an ultrasound, which then led to a mammogram. But no, at no point did anybody say breast cancer. Still, everybody just looked at this as a lump, calcium buildup or so. And it wasn't until I met with the first surgeon, and he decided that, based on the time that you've had this lump, you can see on the scans these white dots, this white dot and everything. It looks like it's calcium. So, we're just going to take it out based on the time frame that you've had it. And I did the surgery. I was back at work the next day. He called me. He didn't ask me to come in. He didn't ask if I was sitting down or if you have time to talk or whatnot. Pretty much just said, the preliminary pathology reports are back, and they're saying it's breast cancer. I haven't fully read the reports, but I'll read them and get back to you in 3 to 5 days. And that was it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And did they stage your cancer?
Yeah. So it was diagnosed as ductal and carcinoma in situ, DCIS. But it also was based on the lump was stage 1 to the size of the lump when they first removed it. It's funny. We have Dr. Ben Park. He's one of our doctor advisors for the foundation. And we were going back and forth on something, and I just shared him the pathology reports. He goes, okay, I see what you're saying on why you're saying stage 1, because DCIS is always stage 0. So they said basically because nothing was tested, biopsied first, they took the lump out, and the size of the lump, that's when they classified it as stage 1. But then once we went through with the mastectomy and they exploratory a little bit more, that's when they deemed it the DCIS. So he was like, I can see where you're saying it's back and forth. So he goes, technically it's a stage 0 DCIS, but it does state stage 1. So all I can say is I got extremely lucky.
Yeah. And you were so brave. And you were so brave that you pressed through. You did not take no for an answer.
Yes. Well,
That's
and
bravo.
that all comes from the support system of
Yes.
parents and family and friends. Because
your mother who's on top of the world. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
I love it. I love it.
It comes from that because it was in the first surgeon when we finally got back to meeting with him, which was actually the next day, because when he called, I called my dad to let him know, but I didn't call my mom because I was leaving one job to go to a second job, and I just didn't have the time to answer the 1,000 questions that she would have that I had no answers to. I think I asked my dad to not say anything to her, and once I got home, we could discuss in person. I think 5 minutes tops went by, and my mom was calling. I was like, "Gee, Dad, thanks for holding out on that one." He just said, he goes, "We're in the same room." I turned around, and she knew immediately something was wrong. But it ended up being the better thing because I signed all the HIPAA forms to allow the doctor to discuss anything with my parents, just so that they were, on it. And he refused to do so. His explanation was he's 24 years old. He's an adult. He can, he can take the news. He can, whatever. It's like, I'm 24 years old. I'm a male. And you just told me I have breast cancer. How is that not a freight train that just hit me out of nowhere, of news? So she called. She raised a little hell. We met with the doctor the next day. Got some information from him on what his, next plan was for it, moving forward. And he was like, no, there's no way around it. The standard of care right now is a double mastectomy. So that's what we'll do. We'll go in, we'll do this. And we asked a bunch of other questions. And, he performed surgery. He's more of a general surgeon, but he's performed vasectomies on women before, never on a male. So it was like, he'd be his first. His just bedside manner was just horrible. So, I thanked him for his time, and I said, we're gonna get a second opinion. So that's what we did. Sorry.
Would you say that, I'm listening to your story, and what I'm thinking is you were self-aware of your body. You knew, your body, and you knew there was something wrong. You felt something and you spoke up. And how important is that to really understand one's own body?
It's very important. You're your own best advocate. You know your body better than any doctor, than anybody else. So it is important to speak up. It's important to speak up more faster than I did. Like I said, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But about a year and a half, 2 years before I was officially diagnosed, I never told anybody. But I had a discharge from my nipple. If I were to bump into something or squeeze it, it was like a yellow, orangish, sometimes red, bloody discharge that I didn't think much of because all I was ever told was that it is a calcium buildup. It would dissipate and it would go away.
Yeah.
So when that was happening, I was thinking, oh, it's the calcium buildup. It's going away. It's dissipating the discharge. Um, but my mom's always said that had she known that, she would have pressed me even earlier after I got diagnosed and I looked a little bit more in on symptoms of breast cancer and, lump being primarily number one, the first thing and stuff, but all the others, dimpling of the skin, rash, discharge, and so on, whatever else. I would have probably been more proactive about it and gone to somebody earlier. So that's one of our bigger things is always early detection saves lives. Do your breast self exams. Don't be afraid to touch yourself. And if you have a partner, hey, make it a monthly thing for both of you.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Date night.
Date night. Exactly. Once a month. A very special date night. Yeah.
That's right.
Roxanne, go ahead. Yeah. Roxanne, you found these amazing, son mother duo. Tell me, how did you find them, and what was the whole collaboration?
Well, after our team meeting for once monthly, we go through with our producer Honor to determine what we were going to do for the month. And Nairi is like, well, we got to think outside of the box. And I'm like, well, here's one that's outside of the box. Male breast cancer. My cousin's son has it. My first cousin, and her son has it, and he's actually currently going through it. He was in a study. And now that didn't work out very well. He's now has congenital heart failure, and they took him out of the program, and then they started him back on his treatment. So he just started radiation again, like last week, last Thursday, and so we're just kind of he's just having a very, very difficult time. So I had reached out to my cousin. And I was like, hey, what about Robert? And she's like, he's just still going through it so bad. So I, everything. I went to Google and I said, well, let's find somebody. I just want to find somebody. And so I came across a video. Elizabeth, she did a breast cancer podcast with the two of you, plus Ron, I think.
Ron Rappaport.
Yeah, and you guys, I think she did it in March of this year.
Right.
And Elizabeth, her story was made off of the story Stolen, if I'm not mistaken. And so I just sat there and listened to the whole thing because I was I just didn't imagine, like the same thing, we women have breast cancer all the time. You don't really, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal, but to understand and discover that men have it too, it is indeed a shocker. I mean, Brett, like how did that diagnosis treatment, how did it affect your body image? How did it affect your self-esteem? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I worked around a pool. I've managed a pool for 20 something years now. So there's times that I have to, get in and clean it or do things around the pool. So immediately when I was told that it was going to be a double mastectomy, I, was kind of like shocked. I was like, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Coneheads, there you go. There's your answer and stuff. No nipples. I mean, my brother's, I found that humor was the best thing when it comes to this. We can get into that a little more later, but my older brother, that was his first joke. He goes, well, you could always be a conehead for Halloween for the rest of your life.
Nice.
But it was in meeting with the first doctor saying that, hey, we'd prefer to get a second opinion with the oncologist that we got set up with a geneticist we got set up with. My case got shared with a lot of others, doctors in the area, like a round table. It was no name or anything, but just what it was: 24-year-old male with breast cancer. Like I've always said, I've got extremely lucky. So my case got put out with some of the top doctors in the area, and it got shared with the surgeon that ended up performing my mastectomy, Dr. Lon McCroskey, and we were able to meet with him. And in meeting with him, he had told me that he had performed mastectomies quite a bit on women. He'd been done a dozen men in his time. I would have been the 13th male. And he was like, I have no problem in reaching out to some previous patients just to see if they would be willing to talk to you if you have any questions regarding this, because I know it's a lot. But I'm going to be honest with you, most of them take time off work, did the surgery, healed up, rested up, and went back to work and never talked about it. He goes, but, and us in our discussions and you talking about, what you do in family and friends and all this stuff. He goes, if you're willing to share your story, he goes, I think you can help others. I think you can put a face to male breast cancer and change this stigma that's out there that they don't want to be associated with it because it's breast cancer and we're men.
Right.
We don't have breasts. So, it was meeting with him. It was then meeting with a plastic surgeon as well, because I went to go see what my options were for reconstructive. Like I said, because I worked around a pool and I went, we'd go down to the lake, or, in the Midwest, we'd do float trips and things like that and hang out with friends. And I didn't know what it would look like, but it was it was after meeting with my doctor, meeting with the plastic surgeon, and him telling me that he'd never done a reconstructive on a male before. He's not saying he can do it, couldn't do it. He's one of the top breast surgeons, plastic surgeons in the region. So I knew I had confidence in him. He was a sibling of a good friend of the family. But it was, once again, hearing that I'd be the first one is when I decided, you know what, this is my story, the scar, this is part of me now. There will be a part of me because I hadn't had the surgery yet, but I go, this is when I'm going to change it. And that's when I decided that I was going to start speaking out. So we kind of contacted some local news channels and newspapers and everything all before the surgery was happening. I made a post on Facebook.
Dr. Quinn's sister was Kathy Quinn, who is with Fox 4 News here, and literally by her picking up the story, we had all 3 news stations literally in the surgery room while he's getting his mastectomy, filming the whole thing.
Wow.
I mean, they're kind of off to the side and everything, but it was it was one of those things that they asked, and I was like, if it's going to help somebody, if it's going to bring awareness, why not? That was pretty much my mindset. Like, if I can help one person, then my mission's complete. But I wasn't going to stop at just one person. It was just, what more can we do to just drop this stigma? Because it's not a women's disease, it's not a men's disease, it's a people's disease. We can all get it.
Absolutely.
If you have breast, you can have breast cancer.
That's amazing.
It doesn't have to be just human beings. It's any being with breasts can have breast cancer.
And you guys, Bret, again, you have a sensational power behind you. Your mother, such an amazing woman. You took your pain and you turned it into purpose to really, really raise awareness. I love it. I love it. I mean, it takes a man and a woman and a human being with resilience and strong courage and purpose to do this for humanity, for other people, because obviously you felt very alone when you were diagnosed. People just didn't know. So
we didn't want any other families to feel that.
I love it.
That alone feeling that, where do you go? Because even by Googling it, there wasn't much on it, guys. Since then, Bret has been on many, many national TV shows, including Good Morning America, The Doctors, Katie Couric's show. Once they started picking up the story, they've helped us get it out there.
Okay. Beautiful.
And it's his older brother that suggested we have got to get a website, and his older brother builds websites. So literally, right after Bret had surgery, his brother already had the website up. And we started reaching out to people
So
Let's
tell
put
us
your
about
story.
that. Tell us about malebreastcancerhappens.org.
But again, that's how it got started. So we could get other men out there. Because I can tell you, I get texts in the middle of the night when they Google. If my head isn't asleep on the pillow, I will answer 24/7. That yes, we exist. You are not alone. Every man out there thinks they're totally alone. And this is a woman's disease. What we tell them right there, it's a people's disease. And it's what Bret's message has been from day one. God bless him. I have 3 sons and a daughter, and God knew which one to choose because this kid is willing to share his life with everyone and to get the message out there.
Bless
And
you. Yeah.
so, again, I say thank you, God, for choosing the right one because I don't think my other 2 sons would have said a word because they are more private.
Yeah.
And Bret's private, but he knew how many this would help worldwide.
Wow.
So just really quick, as I'm thinking about this, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about women's breast cancer. But what are
Totally.
some misconceptions or myths about men's breast cancer that you would like to dispel?
Well, that it doesn't happen. I mean,
Right?
I'm proof. I mean, it's just
Biggie.
one
We've
of the
been
things.
talking about
Like
this whole time.
Yeah.
we were at a conference several years ago, and it was a generic or general cancer conference and everything, and we had a booth, and it said male breast cancer, and there was a doctor from another country, and he walked up and he goes, "Huh,
China. Yeah, he was from China.
that's not real." And kind of like walks away, and we're like,
Is this a joke?
"Did this just happen?" Like, and
Wow.
And
it's
that was at ASCO in Chicago, and this is the conference for all cancers globally. So there were doctors and specialists in from all over the world, and it's just amazing. The guy didn't believe us. By the time
yeah,
he
he
left, he
kind of
understood and
he
believed
kind of
Yeah.
was
us.
chuckling and everything, but they say it's 1% of all breast cancer cases. I believe it's more. I think
A
it's
lot more.
getting more.
Oh,
I think the
I-
statistics need to be relooked at, but at the same time,
Men
if
don't look, won't
many
talk
men
about it.
aren't talking about it and kind of refuse to let them be a number, then we're not getting the information and the research that we properly need.
Yeah, and I suggest to many of the families and moms and parents, and I just talked to one yesterday, her son, and we're going to partner a little bit more with them, has had testicular cancer, which is, it's out there. At least it's being talked about in the young men. But once you get testicular cancer, you can get breast cancer. Well, Brett has been just the breast cancer, but he is being checked for the other. Him and I are we're high risk, okay? But we go Monday with our radiologist to get every 6 months. I've never had breast cancer. I've had 2 lumpectomies. We do not run any mutations in our family that would cause breast cancers or any of these cancers. But I have, and Brett has, 15 other women cousins with breast cancer that they yet to discover why our family has it. I am full blood Lebanese, but
Oh,
this is, yeah, so this is, I'm Ganassi Jewish, and we're literally neighbors in the old country,
yeah.
are very strong on, carrying the mutations and everything for breast cancer. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But again, many of the genetic companies still, we are being studied from years back, and they're continuing the studies when they continue to take the different, genetic tests for us, but still yet to discover what's causing the breast cancer in our family. And it's what I tell all the different moms, and I told yesterday, please, when you're at the holidays coming up now, and you're sitting there with your families at dinner, after dinner, as you're just discussing things, bring up, this is not a woman's disease. Men, check your breast. And I could be at Sam's Club or Costco, any of the clubs, and I'll wear my shirt, and men will walk up to me. I love your shirt. And I'll say, well, do you know what it means? And they go, no. And I tell them a little bit of Brett's story. Well, right in front of me, these men will start checking their breasts, which is wonderful because it makes them understand they need. And I tell them, now you're checking it. So if you find it, what are you going to do about it? And they'll go, well, I'll ask my wife. And I said, okay, fine. Your wife will get you an appointment to go see a doctor because they're the only one that's going to do. And if I can tell anybody and everybody, I love our doctors. I love our medical community. But guess what? If a doctor hasn't dealt with it before, and you know that, and you don't feel comfortable because you're the only one that lives in your body, and you're the only one that knows what's going on, go get into second, third, fourth, fifth opinion if you have to.
Amen.
Until you find a doctor that you feel understands what's going on with you. You're entitled to that in this country. Because in many other countries, you are not. And
Absolutely.
we've had many of the men in Nigeria. That country did not accept male breast cancer, so they wouldn't even pay for treatment for the men. And many of the
Absolutely.
ones that we've talked to have passed away. And so we are lucky in the United States of America that it's at least recognized, and now it's being fully covered, just like women, for breast cancer. Because even when Bret was diagnosed, it wasn't. I spent 35 days on the phones with every insurance company out there to get final approval to get Bret checked and tested.
It's amazing that you say that, because one of our questions was, what has been the hardest part of navigating the healthcare system, primarily focused on women with breast cancer. So,
And that's it.
and that's it.
Exactly what she said.
Yeah, and the men, I love
You
our
said
men.
it.
Trust me, I have them all my life. But they're not the ones that are going to go fight these stupid politics in the world on getting insurance companies to pay, because the game with insurance companies is, if we deny, you'll go away.
Yeah.
And most people do.
And Peggy,
you'll pay
men in general, they don't even get their freaking annual wellness if
they
the wife
won't.
or the mother doesn't push them. Exactly.
Thank you. And it is. And that's all right. That's all
Yeah.
right. I get it. The men have a lot more in their
And
minds. Okay.
It's one of the things that
But-
we've been working on, changing the stigma as well, for men to be more adamant about your health.
Yes.
Physically and mentally and everything. It's okay not to be okay. And if you feel that something's wrong, if you feel a lump, you feel something, go to a doctor. Like, quit pushing it off. And
That's right.
I just talked to somebody yesterday, and he had said that he had quit smoking. He got back on smoking, then he quit again. Then he went to, he was reducing and stuff, and they went to the doctor, and he finally went to the doctor. He'd been meaning to go for some time because he was saying he was having some chest pain, so he finally went, and then some labs came back, and he was really they were kind of questionable and stuff. So he was just like, I'm done smoking, done again. It takes something extreme for us to finally change something, but we should be more proactive with our health.
Right.
And that's just
so
one of the
many
things that we're trying
more
to
of
get
our
men
men
to.
are stage 4 because they don't do anything about it. And when they know it's getting to be too late, that's when they finally go to a doctor. Not much can go. But even that being said, stage 4, we've had several of our survivors with stage 4 live 22, 19 years from diagnosed day 1 with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Okay. So it is not a death sentence anymore. We're working with the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium coming up again in December. And we will have our booth there again, but there is a professor in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he's been all over the news lately on how stage 4, and he's stage 4 metastatic, and he's discovered, and this is why he's going to be in our booth too, to talk to all the pharmaceutical companies, because he's discovered if the medications during metastatic breast cancer gets changed out and switched out at least every 6 months to a year, that metastatic patient will survive 6-7 years longer.
Wow.
And he's just got to get the pharmaceutical companies behind him. So I said, then come. You need to be one, because this is the Breast Cancer Symposium. There's booths. There's over 100 booths from all over the world, similar to ASCO, of all the pharmaceutical companies, all the nonprofits like us that are out there preaching about this. We do once a month. Ron Rappaport that you're talking about, he runs our men's only group, where once a month they get on a call for an hour, literally, and as I say, they shoot the shit with each other on what their treatment is, what's going on. We run a private male breast cancer Facebook page that the men are invited into, and so are their families, that they can talk to each other on an ongoing basis. If they've just been first diagnosed, we had another one just 2 days ago. I got him and his mom and dad invited in, and his wife has just come into it. And they've been able to ask questions because he's going through the treatment. He's going to start chemo. What did you give? Chemo. Everybody's body's different, but at least you can talk to somebody about it. And then on the fourth Thursday of every month, we have a regular podcast like this where we invite anybody or researchers in that have new information about male breast cancer. They present, and then we have a question and answer. And with that being said, also on November the 7th, we have the virtual conference coming up this year again. And then we're going to try to do another one in person in April of 2025, where we bring them in together with their families. And we will have speakers and stuff again. But on the 7th, it will go from 9 to 5 in the afternoon, 30 minutes. And again, we would, even love you all to come on, talk about it, because it's not just the men. We have so many families that the men and women have both had breast cancer. The husband and wife, the kids are being checked on a constant basis if they, have mutations. That is stuff that need to be talked about and shared. And we've already lined up as of yesterday, I'm up to 8 speakers from different big groups and nonprofits and people just like yourselves that are going to get on, and we're going to do it. And we record that and we share that on our YouTube channel, which are on our website. Up in the blue line, you can see the YouTube insignia. You click on it, and we have over 330 videos from our past conferences, specialists, all talking about male breast cancer. And a lot of medical groups come to us to run their clinical trials. Our men have helped with so many clinical trials out there for testing for men because they don't have any other massive groups out there that have the access to the men with breast cancer. We do. And we'll share it out on our private social media pages. But our email list is up to over 700 emails.
I was just going to ask you that. How big is your coalition, your group?
Yeah, that's just the ones that we're willing to share.
Yeah.
If we could get, there are still so many of the men, even though they'll talk to us and everything, they still don't want to really share it. But their wives will keep in contact with me, or their partners, and and I should say partners totally, because we have many gay couples and all that have both the men have had breast cancer, and they share their experience on what they've gone through because of being a gay man and having breast cancer. It's a total different world out there for them. And I'll tell them, if you have breasts and you've got cancer and you need knowledge, we are all families that have come together to hopefully change this in the world. And this is what we want to continue doing. So
amazing. And Peggy, I love your shirt. Who came up with that? Men have breasts too. I love it.
I designed the shirt and everything. Bret came up with it. Mom, let's just do Men Have Breasts Too. Yeah. And our foundation is the Bret Miller 1T Foundation. Male Breast Cancer Happens. And Bret, you want to explain why it's Bret Miller 1T, or should I?
No, I will. Okay. Are you done talking? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I am. You know me, once I get started.
We get asked for the interviews, and she talks the entire time sometimes. So,
she's your mother.
Exactly.
She's a force of nature, by the way.
Yes, I know. We started, so everything started as the Bret Miller 1T Foundation. That's when we started reaching out to the newspapers and magazine and news and schools to just go and talk. And we only settled on that name because of my mom said that the One Nipple Foundation was inappropriate to start. So with the help of my younger brother, he helped me decide that, well, it should be the Bret Miller 1T Foundation, because I've always had 1T in my name. I was always mad at my mom when I met another Bret and he had two T's, because that was the normal way to do it. And I always asked why. Well, I was born after the Royals won the World Series in 1985, along with 11 other
November
boys
5th.
that were in and that were in the nursery at the time. And there was 11 boys named Bret, and she decided that I was going to be named after Bret Saberhagen, which is with one T. Well, then once I got
And not
diagnosed,
George Brett with two
yes, and then
T's.
once I got diagnosed with breast cancer, it all kind of came full circle that it's Bret with one T, one tit, and one nipple. So I got my one nipple foundation in there. It's just not written down. It's the unwritten name of the Bret Miller One T Foundation. And then once we started getting more reaching out to us, globally, that's when we decided to kind of expand and kind of rename it to the Male Breast Cancer Happens, to be our larger group, to be more inclusive, because ultimately the goal would be to get to a point that we are financially helping and doing some research. We've been doing this for a while. The money doesn't always come in. We do, we're just keeping this up ourselves for the most part when it comes to the servers and our care packages that we
Well,
send to the men, which include these
yeah.
shirts and hats and wristbands, just things to make sure that they feel welcome when they get diagnosed, that
Beautiful.
they're a part of the group, and they're not alone. Like I always say, like I was when I was diagnosed, 14 years ago now. So,
Yeah. We
we do,
send it to their whole families, all
yes,
the family members, so they can wear them and get the message out.
we do get
They
some
Exactly.
do.
donations, throughout our time and stuff, but most, and those help and everything. But for the most part, it's just kind of a small organization that we're just making sure that men know that they are a part of something, that they do have somebody there that they can talk to, and not feel alone, and they're included.
That's awesome. And we'd like to highlight your organization on our website, actually,
Yes.
malebreastcancerhappens.org. And that is where people can also make a donation, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And we also have our resource page also. So
Okay.
we in turn want to put you on our resources so the families, the women can find
Absolutely.
you all and stuff. And it's how we continue to build our community for breast cancer and other cancers, because one cancer usually leads to another cancer within a human being.
Absolutely.
So
And it's the power of synergy, right?
oh,
People coming
knowledge is
together.
power is what it is. And if you can get that knowledge, be able to share what you've been through, it may just save somebody else days and nightmares of trying to get help if they
Right.
can cut loose and cut to the corners. Because we've gone after it with the government, the states,
Mm-hmm.
individual states, and all that. The third week in October has been declared Male Breast Cancer Awareness Week. So we're right
Wow.
in. We're right in. It starts next week,
I
and
had
it's
no
after.
idea,
Yeah,
Peggy.
yeah. And
Wow.
we had gotten it signed by Obama's
Uh huh.
uh, presidency, and he declared the third week in October as Male Breast Cancer Awareness Week. So,
That's amazing.
Oh,
we
that's
have many of the
amazing.
states doing proclamations and all that stuff. But as crazy as COVID was, most of the states didn't have time to send us their proclamations anymore. So, but they all told us whatever you had from us in the past, it just figure it goes on forever. And I said, okay, so
That's
it's what
amazing.
it's about. And as I say, the knowledge is power. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Bring it up at your family gatherings, because otherwise, they're not going to know. And we've had many families that in the past that have brought it up, and several of them, the family member wound up having breast cancer. So,
Yeah.
and the men.
The universe knew how to choose Brett as your son and to
Oh,
put you guys together. A powerhouse. Amazing.
well, it's my husband, Brett's great aunt, my aunt, Franny, who was Daughters of Charity and very high up as a nun in the Daughters of Charity. And the week that Brett was having his surgery, she was actually with the Pope, and because she worked with him hand in hand, and she's since retired. And she told all the sisters and them about Brett's situation. Please, let's pray for him and everything. And the Pope pretty much pulled Franny over and says, Don't worry about it. Bret is a higher power. God put him on this earth to get this information out to the world. Wow. They chose him. So tell him to never be afraid what God's path is and to use it for the good to get the message out. And I believe now, 14 years later, this is fact.
Wow.
Because I see it every single day in my life that we help somebody else. And that's why I tell everybody else, you be that other one to help somebody else. Because if each one of us can touch 20 different people on a daily basis, just
with
by mentioning it.
Touch 20 different people with their story. We're not reaching out and touch them.
Only right. Bret would think about that.
There's the humor that I have to have in it and everything.
That's right.
I've always had to do.
That's amazing.
Makes light of the situation. It makes asking all the questions a lot easier for everybody.
It is. You got to laugh about it. You totally got to laugh about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to what you said, Peggy, you know, I read somewhere many, many years ago, it was a book, some quote in a book that said, God never wastes a hurt.
No, he
right?
doesn't.
It's always
he or
used
she,
for
I
something.
should say.
He or she.
Always.
Yes. The
he
goddess,
or she,
the universe.
whoever it is up there, they know how to choose to get messages out, no matter what it is. But we have to listen and understand and push it out. You know, don't be afraid, as Bret says, to touch yourself, because that's the message you got to get out to people. Know your own body. Yeah. You're the only one that lives in it, I say. And if you see something's wrong, do something about it. Don't be afraid.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Bret, what is your last words of wisdom to our audience, men and women?
Just that men need to be aware of their bodies. You need to be your own best advocate. If you feel something, say something. Men have breasts too, and don't be afraid to touch yourself.
And my hashtag is trademark. Together we will change the world.
Together we will
every
change
one of us
the world.
To do it. We cannot do it by ourselves, guys. We need to pass it along to the world. So thank you all. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bret and Peggy, for sharing your powerful journey with us today. Your story reminds us all that breast cancer indeed does not discriminate. It can touch anyone, regardless of gender. The courage to face this disease and the strength it takes to turn your experience into advocacy is truly, truly remarkable. You guys are amazing. You've shown us that silence is never an option when lives are at stake. Thank you, guys. To our listeners, remember, awareness is power, and early detection can and does save lives. Whether you're a man or a woman, don't ignore the signs. Let's continue to break the stigma and spread the word. Men, this isn't just a women's issue. Take charge of your health, speak up, and take action. Together, we can create a future where no one, man or woman, faces breast cancer alone. Until next time, stay informed, stay strong, and keep supporting one another. This is the Avanti Woman podcast, where we lift each other up and strive for a healthier tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us today. For more engagement, you can find us at the Avanti Woman on all social and media platforms. Follow us on Instagram, join our community group on Facebook to chat, subscribe to our YouTube for our latest videos. You can rate us 5 stars on Spotify and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for helping us reach even more Avanti women just like you.